Hello and welcome to Daily Politics on Trust TV. On this program, we discuss issues around politics, policy and governance. I'm Hamza Idris. Multi-billionaire corruption scandals rocking the Ministry of Humanitarian and Disaster Management have put the APC government under former President Muhammad Buhari and his successor, Bola Tinubu, on the spotlight, considering the discovery of alleged monumental abuse of office leveled against the former Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Sadiya Umar-Farooq, and her successor, who was suspended today, Dr. Beta Edu. Former Minister Sadiya was alleged to have diverted over 37 billion naira, and her successor, Edu, is being accused of moving 3 billion from the coffers of the ministry to private accounts. Also, Nigerians are watching with amazement the blame game between Beta Edu and the earlier suspended Chief Executive Officer of the National Social Investment and Poverty Alleviation Program, NSIPA, Halima Shehu, over the whereabouts of the 41 billion naira meant for the vulnerable in the society. It is against this background, on Daily Politics tonight, we engage foremost anti-corruption activists on the mind-blowing corruption scandals, undermining the efforts to provide succor to the most vulnerable in the society. Joining us for the conversation here in the studio is Mukhtar Modibo. He is the Secretary General, Follow the Money, Africa. And via Zoom, we have Eze Onyepere from the Center for Social Justice, Abuja. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, but before we commence the conversation, here are some tidbits. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission has invited the suspended Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, Beta Edu, to its headquarters located in Jabi area of the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. The invitation came less than 30 minutes after President Tinubu announced Edu's immediate suspension from office through his special advisor on media and publicity, Ajuri Engelale. An operative of the EFCC who confided the development to our correspondent said the anti-graft agency had earlier recommended the immediate suspension of the minister in order to pave the way for the ongoing investigation that had been ordered by the president. Meanwhile, former Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Mrs. Sadiya Umar-Farooq, on Monday, January 8, drove to the headquarters of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission to honor an invitation to her to offer clarification in respect of some issues that the commission is investigating. The former minister, through her counsel, had earlier indicated her readiness and willingness to honor the invitation extended to her by the EFCC. A few days ago, she had released a statement in which she said she remained proud to have served her country as a minister of the Federal Republic with every sense of responsibility and will defend her actions, stewardship and programs whenever she was called upon to do so. We'll now take a short break, and when we return, the conversation commences. Don't go away. Welcome back. Yes, Mukhtar, I should start with you. Are you really following the money?
So the reality is we are following, but you know, we can be everywhere. So particularly we have what we follow. So for Follow the Money, one of the things we track is basic education, basic health, water and sanitation. But to some extent, you know, you can only track what you've seen. You can only track what you know. And I would have to say that a lot of government agencies have not been responding to freedom of information laws. So it has been difficult for us to really actualize the tracking. So what we're doing now is more of doing advocacies for us to have subnational government, that's state government, domesticate the freedom of information law so that we can be able to hold them accountable, because we can't track what we don't know.
Now, when you heard of some of the scandals, especially at the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, how did you feel?
To be honest, I will say, as someone that has always been advocating for young people as well as women, I will say it's disheartening to hear. Why did I say that? We've always been at the forefront of saying, you know, let's give women chance and what have you. And any woman that is represented in the government or in as part of government, that means she's representing quite a number of women out there. And by representing quite a number of women out there, that shows that you are there to show the strength of women, the capacity of women, the adaptability of women. But, you know, now it's not safe to say, you know, to some extent, some people will say most of the scandals that we've been having of recent have always involved women, from Dizani Alison Maduki, who is the former Minister of Petroleum, to the Sadiya Umar-Farooq, who is the immediate past Minister of Humanitarian and Disaster Management, as well as Beta Edu. All of them are women. I know there are a lot of men, but I mean, with the kind of representation that we're looking for, we ought not to see these kind of things from our mothers and sisters.
Maybe their propensity to hide their, you know, infractions.
Yeah, I feel so annoyed right now. But I pray and hope the investigation reports comes out to the public, for the public to understand that it's not all women. You know, it's just quite a number of them, and I hope to see punishment being done to that. I mean, we're seeing today the immediate past minister has gone to the EFCC for clarification, and even the suspended one will also be meeting the EFCC. So it's a thing I'm optimistic about. Yes, let's see what the investigation will go.
Okay. Is there any marked difference between the approach to anti-corruption by the previous government of President Buhari and that of Tinubu?
Answer this question of having a contrast, comparing and contrast.
Yes. Good.
Now, at the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, egregious violations of due process of the law has happened, especially Section 713 of the financial regulations, which is quite clear to state that you can't pay public money into private accounts. And if you do that, it is a clear intention of fraud. That's what the section says, that you have a fraudulent intention. So the onus is on you to now prove that you don't have a fraudulent intention. Now, going forward, it is not proper for the minister to be generating a memo for the release of monies in a ministry, department, or agency. Section 112, 111, 112 of the financial regulations articulates the duties of the accounting officer, who is the permanent secretary, and how he has to have the general oversight over the ministry and be responsible to make sure that the rules and regulations, public service rules, financial regulations, are obeyed to the letter. You go to Section 114, you see the duties of the Director of Finance, which is clearly stated about issues around finance, originating memos, passing it through the appropriate authorities, and making sure that the rules are obeyed. So the minister, in originating a memo, simply obviated, ran around all those people who have responsibilities and denied them of the performance of their duties. And by originating that memo, two things come to the fore. Either that the minister does not know these public service rules and financial regulations, or she knew about them and deliberately decided with impunity to disobey them. Now, going further, the rules clearly say, I think 3125, 3126, 3126 of the financial regulations, that you have to do e-payment. And in doing up to the rules of payment, which means you must pay the beneficiary of the contract or the person who is duly qualified under the law to receive a payment. The law forbids you, financial regulations forbids you from paying a third party to pay others. So in e-payment, I am the one qualified to receive money because I'm so poor and the government has decided that they should pay me. My bank account, my name and everything should be there, and the money transferred directly, not by check, not by cash, electronically, e-payments to my account, unless that MDA has got an exemption from the authorities, which I know that the ministry has not got any. So a plethora of financial regulations have been violated beyond what is in the public domain, and the number of laws have also been violated. So going forward, I expect that this is an opportunity not just to sack the minister or to say, you prosecutor, these are routine matters that should be done. This is an opportunity for us to interrogate all the funds meant for the poor. The National Social Security Fund, the Investment Fund, Basic Healthcare Provision Fund, because I saw my colleague talking about monitoring how health or primary health care. We have to first of all put the criteria for qualification to be a beneficiary in the public domain. And the criteria that allows you to benefit from the National Social Poverty Alleviation or whatever formula, if you are so poor, should also be the same that will qualify you to benefit from the basic minimum package under the basic healthcare provision. You will not only make the criteria known to all Nigerians, you publish it on a portal. And those who are qualified, you put their names state by state, local government by local government, ward by ward, village by village, in a portal accessible to all Nigerians. Because I've had the argument, you don't need to breach your privacy. If you are so poor that my tax money will be used to pay for your health bill, give you 25,000 a month, because they said they borrowed this money, but I am a taxpayer who will pay back the money to be used to pay back. If you are so poor and so proud at the same time that you don't want your name there, then you are not qualified. So that I can go back to my own local government, and then my own town, my own ward, my own village, and know whose name is here, whether it's the name of a real poor person or a politician. And we don't need to hire firms, because if you see documents that I imagine from the ministry, they even hired big firms that have no knowledge of transparency and accountability. They didn't hire Follow the Money. They didn't hire CSJ. Some of them are law firms. They have no knowledge. They have no capacity to monitor. And it's a job for the boys. And we've always said, in this kind of World Bank grants or World Bank loans or whatever they call it, or federal government, put less than 1% for civil society to follow through and monitor. But the process I'm talking is no longer of civil society now. It is because if you put names from my village, without charging federal government a kobo, can tell you who is qualified in my village, who is so poor, to receive these social funds or to receive treatment from the basic healthcare fund at the taxpayer's expense. So that is a critical challenge. The challenge is not just about prosecuting whoever has violated the law. It is just a routine. Right. The challenge is that we must reform, because that has been a slush fund. Look at it. Buhari's minister, same case. Tinubu's minister, same case. That means the regulations are so weak. There are no financial controls. There are no internal controls. It's just like, go and collect your own. And the Minister of Interior has been linked to a firm relating to him. If I'm right, is it Minister of Interior or somebody? I don't know whether I'm right. But there's a firm relating to another minister that has been linked. They're just sharing the money. Okay. And God, I'm saying it all honesty, these firms know next to nothing about tracking. They have not received any training. All they are saying is, Emiloko, it is our turn to steal. And they want to steal. That's all. Thank you. Yes, Buhari's minister did this. Tinubu's ministers are doing it. It's a free fund. Buhari's ministers claim that they fed my children during COVID while they were at home. But I know as a fact that she lied through her teeth, a common thief, because nobody fed any of my children. I'm sorry, I'm sounding like it is appearing vulgar. Nobody fed my children. Nobody fed yours. They lie and steal. And it is time we stop them. Because what they're doing is only what the devil does. Lying, stealing, causing mischief, and everything.
All right. Thank you, Eze. Yes, Mukhtar, you heard what he said. And the question I asked him, he actually answered it after laying serious foundation with relevant laws. Where are we getting it wrong? Is it that once you are a minister, you are superhuman? That you have all the powers to do whatever you want? I was discussing with somebody over the phone when he said immediately Beta Edu got to office, she asked for the redeployment of the permanent secretary there, that she don't want to work with him. She removed quite a number of people. And then even this lady she's having issue with, Halima, right, was actually brought much later, because when that office was converted, that is NSIPA, was converted to become an agency, a certain Nasiru from Katsina was posted there. But when she went, she said she would not work with him. She removed him and brought one Delu. That Delu, I'm just giving a background so that to understand why we are having problem. Now that day when she came, what I was told was the first meeting she had with foreign partners, they said they can't work with her because she is not qualified. And that was when they brought Halima. Now Halima started fighting with Beta Edu. Is it for political expediency at the expense of the vulnerable?
You know, the thing is, Beta Edu is a medical doctor. She used to be the chairman of Cross River State Primary Health Care Development Agency, to being a commissioner, before being a woman leader to APC to being a minister. You see, why I'm bringing all these things is sometimes that's why we said people should be employed based on merit. They really, I mean, these people have the capacity, have the capability, they are mobile enough, you know, they are understanding, they can adapt to change, you know. These are people that we need to be brought to the limelight. A lot of times we just sit down and speak about, we know the good ones and we push the worst ones. So I'm not saying she is the worst one, right? But I'm just saying is, what I'm saying is, logically, there is a fundamental problem of how we employ people, or the administration or president, for positions of responsibility. Sometimes it's based on political compensation, sometimes it's based on friendship, sometimes it's based on someone nominates someone to godfatherism and what have you. And if we don't question that, right, it will get us into another thing. Take a look and see. All this money we're talking about, they're loan money, right? And, you know, sometimes when these people come into power, one of the first things that need to be done now, today, in my own organization, where I work in, immediately you come, whatever experience you portray, there is what is called onboarding. And on that onboarding process, they give you, the organization gives you all the required things. If this is the way you work, this is how we work in this organization. If this is how you do, not as usual. If you know how retirements are being done of resources, this is what our policy says. How many of these people read about the policies before, you know, assuming into power? How are they being onboarded? Are they just being, you know, one person? I know at some point Dr. Joe Abba speaks about moderating ministerial retreat. How many of them were paying really key attention to understanding what are the policies that are there and what have you? Now, coming to the question of I cannot work with you, I want to work with someone. To some extent, sometimes everybody have the way he or she want to, but this is a public service, right? The people you meet are the people that will guide you. You are meant to learn. You're meant to unlearn. You're meant to relearn some things that you will put out there. So the question here is, like our senior colleague Eze mentioned, there are a lot of fundamental questions. Like, we need to check about legitimacy of the people we bring into power, right? We need to see what are the services they are providing. Because as it stands now, with one ministry, within short period of time, having quite a number of scandals, right? That is to tell you there is something wrong. Monitoring and evaluation is not being done, and I can confidently tell you the ministry over time, before Beta and during Beta, have not been responding to freedom of information law.
They don't release.
They don't respond. They don't release any information. Today, I can sit down here and tell you what are the prerequisites of, say, this one is a vulnerable person or this one is a poor person. I work within the community system, community structures. I go to communities. I've been leading community engagement and leading Follow the Money for quite some time now. I cannot tell you that this is the prerequisite they use in ascertaining this one is poor and that's why he's on the list. And I don't know, or today, maybe there is a way the ministry can tell us how many years will these people be benefiting from this kind of resources. And just so you know, thank you, just so you know, this is a loan, and taxpayers' money will be used to repay back that loan. And we don't know anything about that thing. You cannot pinpoint a portal today that will say go to and check. So the reality is, everything within the ministry is questionable. So sometimes some people will sit back and say, why make it a ministry when it can be a department, right? I will agree with them because they're entitled to their own opinion, thinking of reducing cost of governance and what have you. But there is a question to who is a vulnerable person. There is a question to how are they being pushed to do it. And there is a question on responsibility. Today we're seeing the Accountant General coming out to say these things, there was a letter asking for approval, but the letter is, the response is, it's not legal for you to send chunk amount of money up to 585 million to a personal account, right? We're having another spokesperson coming out to say it's legal for us to do that. We're self-accounted and stuff like that. So the question is, everything about that procedure is questionable. So where is the transparency? Where is the accountability? And we've always sit here and say we're going to watch the process unfold. But the reality is, I think there are a lot of questionable things to the thing. I just watched the Minister of Interior speak about the company that was brought in, and he said he has resigned from the company 5 years ago, showing the document of resignation and what have you. But the thing is, all these things are questionable. That is what will tell us that we need to go back and really put eyes, or government need to go back and put eyes on the procedures of the people they brought in to serve the people. Are they really serving, or they're serving themselves?
Thank you. Yes, Eze, already the person who took over from Halima, for instance, is saying that Minister Edu has no need to fear because what she did was transparent, right? That one is in the open. Who will really adjudicate this issue? Because Halima said she moved the money in her custody because she realized that Beta Edu is using her powers to withdraw the money at will. And Beta Edu reported Halima to the president, saying that Halima has stole those over 40 billion or thereabout. Who should do what and at what time?
Okay, for me, it is beyond what Halima says and what Beta Edu is saying. I'm a lawyer by training. I've been 35 years as a lawyer. So the law is my guide. The financial regulations, the public service rules is my guide. So I will judge whatever they did on the basis of these laws and regulations. The regulations are clear. You cannot move public money to a private account. So if Halima moved public money to a private account, or Beta Edu move public money to private account, both of them are wrong. So I'm not taking sides with any of them. But what is clear from what will be the stories available from Buhari's ministers up to the present minister is that these are like sludge funds. They are not looking at any rules. They are doing it at their whims and caprices. Nobody is monitoring them. So maybe somehow our God is able to catch thieves and expose them. We are quarreling among themselves. If they were Halima and Beta Edu were not quarreling, maybe trying to undo each other, we will not have heard of these stories of what is happening. Maybe it's their quarrel that they now expose each other, and we now know what Beta is doing and what Halima is doing. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm not interested in taking sides with any of them. Now, back to the minister who says he has resigned 5 years ago from the company. The question is, were these contracts advertised? What was the specification, the TOR of the people who should monitor? Yeah, my colleague sitting there is doing follow the money. I have had experience of working in civil society for close to 25 years of my life. All right? And so I understand what monitoring and evaluation and tracking is all about. Where were these, contracts advertised? Who and who responded? Who was the evaluation team that decided that A, B, C, or D had capacity to do it? I am saying those companies, including the minister's companies which has resigned, they have no capacity to monitor. It's not because you float a company and you are eating big money. What do you know is monitoring and tracking? What are the processes? Where is your monitoring report, which you did under 1 month or 2 to say everything is all right? You did Dobale, you did Kabiesi, and gave a clean bill of health. Where is that report? Why is that report not in the public domain? For you to be, for us as citizens whose tax money is going to be used, to be able to review it. Meanwhile, look at the Fiscal Responsibility Act. It's clear that government shall deploy utmost transparency in the management and allocation of public resources. And when you are doing that, such reports are supposed to be in the open. I have challenged the procedure through which they were paying money. When the wife of the former Chief Justice was in charge, I went to her office. I said a few things, some of my colleagues said other things, but nobody convinced me up to today. I think she got away with the impression that maybe I'm trying to undo her, I'm trying to bring her down. But I made it clear to her that I have nothing against you. My principles are clear. Even if you bring my immediate junior brother or my mother, forget it, I mean, my mother is late, or even if you bring anybody related to me, these things I told you is exactly what I will say. But nobody like he said, he's taking these things up. You do an FYI, I've done FYIs for them in the past, nothing came out of it. Like he has affirmed, after somebody will accuse you, maybe you are taking sides, you are politicizing, regionalizing, or whatever, they will put it. But unfortunately, the situation is that we must use the law as the benchmark for judging who is right or wrong. And in this case, 2 of them are wrong, because you can't transfer public money into a private account. You can't transfer such huge public money as the executive director or chief executive without the knowledge of the minister. So if the minister had wanted to see the money, report her to the higher authorities, okay? And let them take it up from there. But you don't have the right to transfer public money that way. And the minister on her own has no right to do what she did.
All right. Mukhtar, let me have your take. You know, I ask, are they demigods, right? Because is it easy for a minister to just sign and then billions just move to another account while you have accountant, you have permanent secretary? Yeah, what is happening in our ministries?
To be honest, like I said, nobody is monitoring anybody. Everybody is doing what they want to do, and there is a usual word of Milokon. Everybody is thinking it's my own time. You know, let's just get it done and move on. The truth is, a lot of people have been undermined. If I'm not mistaken, before you be a permanent secretary in the federal service or subnational service, that's state and local government, you might have reached almost 20 to 25 years in service. That means you have portrayed some level of experience.
And the snag here, Mukhtar, is the Accountant General, for instance. She saw that memo.
Yeah, and said no to it.
But it happened.
It happened. So how? So the question is, how did it happen? Who okayed it to happen?
The Accountant General should answer some questions.
So that means there are a lot of people, and that's why I said everything is questionable. Questionable in the sense that a lot of things has happened, right? If those things are happening, who is being held accountable? Who has been punished? We're still seeing the former minister apologizing to EFCC, saying not giving reason or something. She just apologized and she went today, right? What happened to she going ever since they invited her? So, to be honest, sometimes when things like this happen, a lot of people will come, or someone will tag us on social media and say, like what you asked, are you really following the money? How will you follow what you don't know? And we can only use the laws to ask questions. Right. So what I can say is we are all in big trouble if we cannot stand up and ask questions.
Thank you very much, Mukhtar. And thank you, Eze. We'll go in a short break. Viewers, remain with us. We'll be back shortly.
Should I keep quiet? And then we kept saying, can't we teach these people basic business, not hustling? Teach our people entrepreneurship, not hustling. Go to China, Guangzhou, different districts. They can turn fair. Am I saying what you don't know?
So this about this thing.
Yeah, but this time around we are talking about appointment of ministers, where there is an express provision in the constitution as regards that.
Let's come to appointments. You know, it is the status of FCT that the constitution has made it too complicated for people to understand.
However, if you are to go backwards and do a kind of audit, you will be shocked to find that the resources so far expended on the SDGs far outstrips the achievements face to face.
Most of the time when you are involved, it's difficult for you to draw back and have a holistic view, because what? Sentiment would always come to play, because all of us would definitely, I had, like I told you yesterday, I was 100% convinced that you cannot say you are qualified without bringing any document.
Welcome back. If you are just joining, this is Daily Politics on Trust TV. Do well to follow the conversation across our social platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and watch us live on YouTube. We still have via Zoom Eze Onyapere from Center for Social Justice, Abuja, and here in the studio, Mukhtar Modibo, the Secretary General of Follow the Money Africa. Welcome back to the program.
Thank you.
Yes, Eze, let me start with you. Is the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs not heavily loaded? Because if you check, when it was established by Buhari, NEMA was under humanitarian, National Refugee Commission under humanitarian, NAPTIP, under humanitarian, this NSIP under humanitarian, it was seeded from presidency. You have SDG under humanitarian, you have Citizen Center, Senior Citizen Center under humanitarian. You also have the Disabilities Commission under humanitarian. Is this normal?
Well, it is left for the executive to classify or assign administrative agencies under whatever name or ministry that they so wish. I do not want to dwell on whether any agency under the ministry is normal or not. But what should be of utmost interest is that those agencies follow the law, deploy due process in the management and allocation of resources allotted to them, as well as in the execution of the tasks assigned to them under various laws that will enable them to realize their ultimate goals. Like I said before, what has happened may be a very annoying thing to the majority of Nigerians, particularly taxpayers, and nobody is happy about it. But since it's a challenge, it also provides an opportunity which we must insist on latching on for reforms. Because if we are discussing 30, 40, 50 billion lost, and we use this as an opportunity for reforms, it will help us to make sure that when the money gets up to 100 billion or 200 billion, that all the money is not lost. So for me, I see an opportunity in what has happened, despite the fact that the average Nigerian is angry, despite the fact that I'm not happy, but it is an opportunity for reform. And since Mr. President has suspended the minister, because I wrote a press release to say what is good for the chief executive of the National Social Protection Agency should also be good for Madam Beta Edu. You don't simply suspend one and leave the other. And this one, like we all said, came highly recommended with all the appointments she has had. I did say that it's either she doesn't know the rules or she deliberately decided to act on them with impunity. For me, I'm voting more on the fact that since she's been in the public service as a minister, as a commissioner, she voted for impunity. And that shows that it may not have been the first time that she put up this kind of memo that was approved. And she may not have been doing it just on her own accord. There may be some other unseen forces, authorities, principalities, and powers who have not been made known to Nigerians, who have been telling her, because having served as a commissioner, you should know the way monies are released, that you don't go straight to the accountant general for your money. The money is released to Minister of Health, Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Minister of Education, and when your money comes to you, you now decide in your ministry with your PAMSEC, Director of Finance and Accounts, how you want to use the money. And then the minister has no business generating memos. I'm a lead director, executive director in my office. I don't generate memos. I only approve memos. In fact, some memos may have to hang on my table for days. You are chasing me around. I'm not the one to be doing that kind of memo. sometimes I can sleep over a memo before I approve of it. So for her to be involved in the process of generating and seeking approval for memos, this is an extraordinary circumstance that is not tolerable, is beyond what the laws contemplated. And Beta Edu, I understand, is a medical doctor. So she's very well educated. And she comes highly recommended, comes from a background of having been in the public service. So I don't think it was a mistake. They should dig deeper and be able to confirm who and who she has been collaborating with, or who and who have been, gingering her. That word, let me use it advisedly. Or how young men these days talk about who and who gave her the lever, quote and unquote, to say, go forward, we are behind you, nothing will happen. But unfortunately, now there is a big hoopla, everybody shouting. Those people will disappear. If she mentions their names, they will likely deny her. But if I'm in her shoes, I will spill the beans, say, I wouldn't go down alone. Right. Everybody that needs to go down will go down with me, and it offers a big opportunity for reforms.
Thank you. I will ask you two questions at the same time. A follow-up to what he said. She isn't alone in this. And this reminds me of the monies that were moved to Kogi, Bayelsa, and this other state that they held election just ahead of the election. They said it's for vulnerable people, and people are now saying that those monies were actually for campaign. Does that mean she's not alone in this? And what is the impact of the summation of all these infractions to the vulnerable man and woman who are actually finding it very difficult to feed?
So to give you in lay terms, right? The poor are becoming poorer, and the poorer, if there is any word like that, they are going back. The reality is, she can never be alone. Why did I say she can never be alone in this? Is the fact that, today I had a team, right? I can't remember when last I went to sit down and say I want to apply for money. I have people that will do that. All I need to do is that first level of approval. I give and a pass.
That is all.
That is all I do. This is an organization of just 33 people within Nigeria, and then two people in 10 African countries, right? And these are the people I manage. Now, she is a minister. You mentioned all this parastatal. Just so you know, they are all under her. She all give authorities, she give powers and what have you. All she did to do is to review and approve, right? But the minister is, if you look at the Accountant General letter, response, gives everything that they receive a letter from the minister requesting for this and this and this. I don't want to say she don't know what is the regulation of the civil service. I told you earlier, she was in the MPHC, Primary Healthcare Development Agency of Cross River, to being a commissioner, to being a woman leader in APC, of a ruling party, before moving to being a minister. And after being a minister, I'm 100% sure she was onboarded to what to do, how to do it. But it happens that she went ahead to undermine from the director of maybe finance, if there is any, the permanent secretary, as well as her own office has been undermined, because the amount that is said is being said to be submitted to an account. And these are not just the allegation. There are other things that says advanced party travel for 2.5 million to a state that does not even have airport, but they are traveling
200,000 for each, including the driver.
All right.
For airfare, and then 20,000 for taxi.
Okay.
There.
Okay, so the reality is you can just calculate all these things. So there are a lot of things. So that's why I said this is another opportunity to show people this is really what is happening within some ministries. There are a lot of people that we have huge respect for. Today, I have huge respect for the Minister of Health, that's Professor Ali Pati. Is this what he is doing? I don't know.
Maybe you should be...
Thank you. But with the things that are happening, to some extent, I will tell you one thing. I will align myself with what the senior colleague just said. See, I am happy to some extent and sad to some extent. Happy to the extent that this thing has been exposed, and then the president or the presidency at some point listen to the cry of people and then she's been suspended. That's one. I am sad because she's a woman. A lot of people might not want to trust, put some trust for some level of women to some extent, you know. But I will say reforms can be made if truly the investigation will be made public, like this thing is made public. And you know one good thing about what is happening in the 21st century, in what is happening this time around, even if you did not put it to the public, in one way or the other,
they will know.
It will get to the public, and we will know, and we will caution you. Our own path is, I know we will keep tab on what is happening, and we will be sending FY letters to understand what is the investigation report, right, on this very thing. And we are watching to see what the government will do. But just so you know, they are not demigods. There are processes. The only thing is the mandates are not being followed, and that's why we keep advocating for the mandates, right? The mandate of each and every ministry to be given to the vulnerable, and let the vulnerable be out of that vulnerability.
Eze, what is the impact of all this on the poor?
Well, as you can see, we are borrowing money to alleviate poverty, to distribute to the poorest of the poor, but poverty is increasing. MBS report last year talked about 65% of Nigerians in multidimensional poverty. And then even the recent MBS report talks about increasing poverty. So the impact is that the more we borrow and the more we spend to alleviate poverty, the more poverty increases. So which is like a contradiction in terms, because this shouldn't actually be the case. The more we spend, the more poverty should be alleviated. Now, let me also give you an example of things that happened in the recent budget approval, the 2024 budget. For the past 10 to 15 years, I've led the process of identifying frivolous, inappropriate, wasteful, and sometimes illegal and unconstitutional expenditure in the budget, executive budget. And we make sure we pick them out, publish them, and send to all members of the National Assembly and the Budget Office. If you look at the budget today and compare it with what we are discussing with the Humanitarian Affairs Ministry, you will weep. Because what is happening in that ministry will be a cruel joke. It will be too small compared to what some MDAs are doing. You see MDAs that are simply saying that they have a mandate to put electricity, to put water, voting billions of naira, okay, without a location, without beneficiaries, without any means of identifying who should benefit. So for instance, look at the budget of the Ministry of Agriculture, the supplementary budget. I'm not even talking of the full year 2024 budget. They gave 14-point-something billion to each geopolitical zone for dry season farming. So in Southeast, for instance, there's 14-point-something billion for dry season farming in the Southeast, or Southwest, or Northwest, or Northeast. So if you get to the Southeast and you want to monitor the vote of the Minister of Agriculture for dry season farming, where do you go? Enugu State, Ebonyi, Abia, Imo, Anambra State, which you get to the state capital, or you move to a local government. So you are at a loss. These monies are simply sludge funds meant to be stolen. Because we've been having them over the years from the Obasanjo days, service-wide votes. But nothing, absolutely nothing, is coming out of them. For the past couple of years, there has been a National Youth Fund with the budgeted close to 100 billion this time around. Who are the youth benefiting from this money? Okay, we've had traders' money, we've had farmers' money. I can tell you, SDGs, they do SDG 1, SDG 2, each of them 100 billion, 120, 200, from the Obasanjo days. I'm not even talking of this, up to the present day. And it has been canvassed at those service-wide votes as large funds. Put them to the ministries, because service-wide votes stay under the presidency and the Ministry of Budget and Planning and Finance. Put them generally under the MDAs that are supposed to have them. And then you will simply get what you need. And at the end of the day, you can ask them questions. But if you put them with the presidency, who is going to ask them? Auditor General, does he have the effrontery to go and ask the president to account for money?
The problem. Thank you very much, Eze. Mukhtar, now maybe before we round up, how should the president, because he's the one who appointed all these ministers, he has the mandate to hire and fire. What riot act should he read to the ministers, and so that we're talking about the poor?
To be honest, I think before appointing, he needs to, the president needs to really look at pedigree, need to look at background, need to look at antecedent, need to look at knowledge of subject matter, you know, and look at people that are subject matter specialists on things. But, you know, with the current things of Nigeria, we've seen imam that have messed up. We've seen pastors that mess up. We've seen professors that mess up. We've seen a lot of people. So to some extent, you know, when some people said we are beginning to lose hope, you know, I will want to align with them, but want to come back because I believe in process. But what I will say is someone that is ready to adopt, someone that is ready to learn, someone that is ready to understand. And when these people are being brought, I think we need to also, even if it is a refresher, if they don't understand it, let's put them into a refresher course for them to understand civil service, right? And let's not be like state. You know, let me tell you one of the story we got in one state.
In brief, yeah.
In brief, we discover that if there is a political compensation and someone will be appointed a commissioner, they will get the best permanent secretary and post him to that ministry. So automatically the person is there. Even if he fumbles, the permanent secretary will bring him up to speed. I think this is what experience does. So what we can do is bring people that are ready to learn, that are ready to adopt, so that we can run a race and win the race together.
Thank you very much. Eze, let me have your final take in less than 30 seconds. What the president should do.
Final comments on how to get the best hand.
Yes.
I have one solution. It looks like a cure: transparency and accountability. Right. If you want a minister or a government official, advertise for that position. Like a Catholic bands of marriage in the Catholic Church, I'm a Christian. He say, know ye all men that Ezonyebere wants to wait so. He's being appointed a minister and he has applied or he's being recommended. Any man, woman, boy, a girl who has a reason as to why Ezonyebere should not be made a minister in his professional career, in his love life, in all things about him from his village, come forward. You have the final opportunity, otherwise forever keep silent. And once those facts are presented, you can now make up your mind.
All right, thank you very much. What a prescription. Thank you, Eze Oyepere from Center for Social Justice in Abuja, for your informed perspective. We hope to have you some other time.
My pleasure.
Good. And then, Mukhtar Modibo, Secretary General, Follow the Money Africa. We thank you for coming to the program and for your informed perspective.
Thank you for having me.
And viewers, that's a wrap on today's package. We hope you found the conversation engaging and informative. And be sure to join Daily Politics airing live every weekday and one special package on Friday, during which we open our telephone line for you to comment on national issues. For now, bye-bye. I'm Hamza Idris.